Well, hey everybody, it's Joel Tappan here, and I'm going to show you a project I've been working on for way too long. I apologize it took me so long to finish this one, but there is a lot of moving parts to this. But this is Seas of Thunder, and this is the VASSAL module, so I'm just going to give you a quick tour. This started off as, I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward, simple VASSAL module, and as I got into it, the further I got into it, the more complex I realized this was going to be. So this is why it took me so long. What you're going to find here when you open up the VASSAL module is you're going to find that the game has the potential of using both maps in sequence if you're going to play the Grand Campaign, and VASSAL is a suitable platform to do this on. So I wanted to keep the Grand Campaign in mind when I created this. So what I've got is I've got both maps, and in order to do this in VASSAL, so you can transfer things from one map to the other, they are both stacked on top of one another, meaning the early war is at the top of the screen. If you scroll down, you'll find that the late war is at the bottom of the screen, and it's just marked very ostentatiously out of play. Now, I'm going to go ahead and expand the window just a little bit so you can see the entirety of the playing surface. So out of play is the late war. So we're just going to look at the early war. So here is the main playing display, and then to switch between early war and late war, if you click on the button that says late war, it will transfer everything on this map to their exact location where they should be on this map. And so that's what's going on with that. That is the probably what took me the longest to figure out how to do that, and the port displays, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. So if you accidentally hit this button, I need a mechanic for you to undo that successfully, so the early war will send you right back to how things were, and we'll leave it there for now. If I go ahead and zoom in on the left-hand side of the screen, you have all of the allied ports, and many of them are marked out of play. If you open up the play aids, you'll see that it's got basically the same information. I'm just going to go ahead and resize this. I have no idea why it demonstrated itself in that way. There we go. That's bizarre. So if you look at like scenario 1 for the allies, there's tabs for allies and axis, so you can see the two different port displays. And then you have the different scenarios, and I have no idea why VASSAL software just like by default will either hide stuff or make it ridiculously big. There seems to be no rhyme or reason for it. It's just totally random. But if you look at the axis and the allied port displays, you should find the same exact content over here on the main map. I wanted to make this as seamless as possible so you can send units directly to ports that were in display over here without having to transfer between windows, because that can get kind of tricky. In the course of playing the campaign, you're going to have different ports become unavailable. New ports will become available. To make those ports available that are currently out of play, there is a button on the toolbar that says Scenarios. If you click this button, it will cycle between the available ports for the scenario. So now scenario 2 ports are now displayed, and this works on both sides of the map. So all of the axis maps for scenario 2 are now available. Ones that are no longer available are marked out of play, and that's basically how this works. And you can just cycle through this. Scenario 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then if you hit it one more time, obviously scenario 8 is the campaign, but if you hit this one more time, it'll go back to 1. It's not going to cause any pieces. If you have pieces on an out-of-play port, it's not going to make them disappear or anything. They would just stay there. It's just a layer I put on these pieces. And these pieces are treated like trays, as I'll show you here in just a moment. There's also a cool way to get all your ships. If you look at let me find it here, the Allied Ships window, all the allied ships are in here, and if you're setting up a scenario and you need to delete all the brown, green, purple, red, yellow, or white striped units, you can do that very easily. Like if I want to get rid of all the yellow stripes, I hit this button here, they're all gone permanently. They're just gone from the game. If you accidentally hit that button, you'll want to be able to undo it with the undo button here. So what you can do with this is then you can go through and, eliminate ships that you're not going to need for the setup, but let's assume that we need all the ships. Quick way to transfer everything to the board here to the map is just to move the game marker. Now for turn 1, all I got to do is just barely move the turn marker, and then I'm going to wait for about 30 seconds because it takes a little while for it to do this. So be patient, don't freak out, just be patient, and all of the ships that need to be on the map, they will suddenly appear. So you see there's a lot of British turn 1, all your French, and a good portion of the Kriegsmarine is available on turn 1. So then you can just take these, you can drag it over to your side of the map, and you can just start separating stuff and figuring out how you want to organize your ships and put them on your port displays. Now, what I was going to show you about the port displays, let's just imagine for a second, I want to put this merchant cruiser over here in Bangkok. You can feel free to move these little mats around. They'll snap to the grid here, but they work like mats so that the game pieces on them will, stick to the port. It's a cool new feature in VASSAL, so just want to make you aware of that. So if you want to reorganize all of your ports, you can feel free to do so. Now, they don't stack with one another, so it could get a little tricky in that regard. So you might have to move stuff out here, in order to get it organized. But feel free to reorganize your ports however you want. Then whenever you shift to the late war, everything will transfer from this side of the map down to the bottom half of the map. And remember, they have to be over in these panels here for that feature to work. If you, for some reason, decide, hey, I want to put my port displays over here, you're welcome to try that. I don't see why that wouldn't work. But I don't think they'll transfer if I try late war. Let me just see. It might. No, it won't. All right, so I'll put everything back. There. All right, just so you know how that works. Okay, that's basically how things are going to work there. I have one little tweak I still got to put in. There's a few more tweaks that I've got to do this. Like I have little numbers here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those. Let me show you how to mask your pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Actually, I think I'm signed in as solo right now, so I'm going to leave that alone. If I were to take, let me get some allied ships over here. Just drag some around. All right, that should be good for now. If I go ahead and click on the hide buttons here for the allies, it will hide all the allied pieces on the board. And this is if I'm playing solo, it'll mask them to me. And then if I want to do that for the Axis, I'll do this button, and it'll do all of the Axis pieces. And wherever they are here on the ports, they'll all be masked. To reveal those, it's just the same process. You just click on that button, and that button will reveal them. Now let's imagine I'm signed in as, say, Great Britain. Now the sides, let me just say I've got the different sides are allies, and then I have specific ones for multiplayer. So you got Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, USA, USSR, and the Axis. So I figure that's probably a good enough selection for players to make things work. Let's just go ahead and say I'm signed in as the Axis, so I'll click OK. All right, this button here will not work for me anymore, okay? It'll only work if you're signed in as solo or one of the allied sides. I am signed in as the German, or as the Axis, so the German pieces, when I click this, they will be hidden to my opponent. My opponent will just see the German Kriegsmarine logo on the back that we just saw a moment ago. It'll look like it did when we were playing solo. But for me, the owner, it'll show me the contents of the piece. So this way I can see my pieces, even though they're hidden to my opponent. Now let's take all of these and send them over to the combat display. Right-click and send to the combat display. All right, when I go into the combat sequence display, all the game pieces, the allies will be over here on the left, the Axis over here on the right. Let's just say, for example, I've gone ahead and I put all my pieces into, where I want to put them. Let's just say I put everything where I need to go. These guys aren't masked, so I'll just leave them alone. We'll just put them down here. All right, at this point, I need to reveal the ships. Now, if you're playing by email, this can be problematic. If you're playing live, you just tell your opponent, hey, unhide your ships. If you are playing, competitively by email, this might be problematic because you can't manipulate your opponent's masked pieces. So to make this very easy, you just click Reveal Ships, and it will unmask everything. I'm not going to ask you about the Rube Goldberg machine that makes that happen, but suffice it to say there's a little bit of a process, but it makes that happen. All right, and that's basically how this is going to work here. A couple different die roll options. If you trust the VASSAL die roller, you can do single dice over here. The result will appear in the comments as well as in the button, or you can use the batch die roller and put in as many dice as you want. If I just want 2, it'll do that. It will sort the results to make it easy for you. So if I do 10 dice, don't freak out if you see them in numeric order. That's by design. It'll sort them to make it easier to see the results. And I think that's about it for how that works. Now, again, I got a few tweaks to make before we make this available. So let me just show you how. Oh, yes. Anytime you put, I'll just throw one of these guys in here to show you, but anytime you put an LBA in the available LBA, it'll give you a counter here just to keep track of what's available, what's not. And all of these can be sent to places via right click. If I right click on a unit like the hood here, I can choose to return to base. And if I do this, I have to type the name of the base. So let's say I type Scapa Flow. Hit OK. I go over here and hopefully, yep, there he is. He went to Scapa Flow. Now, if you're not good at spelling, there's a lot of ports in this game, y'all. You can right click and then I have them sorted by region, Arctic base, North Atlantic. So let's say we want to send this guy to a Indian Ocean base. And then we can, from the drop-down box, select one of the Indian Ocean bases. Now, it's up to you to know which bases are available to you, okay? So I'm pretty sure Bombay, Colombo, these are going to be available to the British. But if you're uncertain, just check that before you do this, or fix it if you make a mistake. I'm going to choose to put this guy in Bombay, hit OK, come over here, and everything should be sorted by ocean, and you'll see he showed up over in Bombay. So that's one of the cool features that we went ahead and put in the VASSAL module. It took some time to do all that, but I think it's going to make this a lot more playable. To send a unit to the dead pile, you can send a unit to Iron Bottom Sound by right-click, and Iron Bottom Sound is where all your sunk ships are going to go. And I have no idea why this is showing up this way, but here you go. And it just shows up over on this side. The Germans are going to show up over on the other side. So if I kill a German unit here with a Control X, it'll show up over on this side of the window. So there you go. And let me think if there's anything else. Oh, combat. This is going to be cool. If you click markers, there's not a lot of markers in the game, but I made one. Okay, so let's say you got to work through, you're going to have ships all over this map. This is basically a massive worker placement game, okay? That's how I like to describe this. And what you're going to do is you're going to work through the ocean zones by area. So I've designed this in such a way so that you can put this marker down and then you can use the little combat space markers here, buttons on the toolbar, to move this thing around the map. And that just helps you keep track of where the battles are taking place on the map. So that's kind of a cool feature. Just remember, when you take stuff out of combat window sequence, make sure you drag it back to the proper space, and that's what makes this so handy, is you remember what space on the map these battles are taking place in. Mines are fixed on the map. You can increase them just by right-clicking on the hotspots I've created for them, and I think they loop around, they wrap around. So Gibraltar and the entrances to the Baltic Sea, you can take care of that by right-click. You can also send units to the repair track by right-click and then just drag them down. When you do that, by the way, let's say we send this guy here to the repair track, Control-R. He's going to show up down here at the Allied one. And it's just going to show off up to the right, because you got to make a die roll to find out where he's actually going to go. Here we rolled a 5, so he actually would go here, but let's imagine we rolled a 4, then we'd have to just manually drag him down here. And that's all there is to that. Once more, let me just get these guys out of the way just so you can see what's going to happen here in a second. Anytime you advance the turn marker, it only happens the first time you move it into the space, but it'll take everything out of the ship's window and it'll throw it into the appropriate spot here on the board. And it'll kind of sort them. So some pieces are going to show up just to the left, some are going to show further up to the left, depending on what nationality. So that's why they're organized that way. So as you go, it'll, some turns you're going to have a lot more ships. So just be patient, just wait. You see the marker hasn't moved yet. it's processing a lot of ships, as you can see here. And that hopefully all works. We're going to test. I'm going to ask some guys to test this out. But that's what's coming up. It is here. I believe everything is working correctly. I just have a couple of minor little odds and ends to fix, and then we'll make this we'll get this out to play testers, and then we'll make this available to players. So hopefully the wait, it'll be worth the wait. This is a game that, it can take a long time to play through the entire war, but with Vassal, you could actually go ahead and do that. I think that is all that you need to know. But the convoys are in here. There's nothing special about it except I made extra space so that you can, drag out multiple ones. You can right click and choose the numbers. If you're pulling out like 15 markers, you can pull them all out like so, and then it's up to you to sort them and place them and whatnot. And I think that's about it for how this game works. Oh, VPs. So I like to put a notes thing. You can keep track of VPs and things in the notes, the notepad. Otherwise, you can use the VPs marker here just to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. For the allies, you can cycle it up using this particular toolbar. Same thing with the allies. It's just a ticker that goes from 0 to infinity. One of the things I realize I do have to fix is that it needs to go just a little bit higher so that when it's mirrored onto the Seas of Thunder Late War, see if I go down to Late War here, it won't be obscured by the logo here. So the logo is not exactly in the same spot. So I got to fix a couple little things like that, and then we should be good to go. So I'm Joel Toppin. This is what is coming up in Vassal. This is Seas of Thunder, and it is finally, and again, I apologize for how long it took. Finally, this is just about ready to go.